Where does fear come from? Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to explain to you about fear because I talk about all the time about the fear of talking. In my method, the Brave Muscle method, I always talk about generally about fear because actually the brain doesn't really know the difference between all the fears. So we know selective mutism is the fear of talking, but I always say selective mutism is more than the fear of talking. So that's a little bit confusing. So let's have a look at it together. In the meantime, though, that you're watching this video, remember to subscribe, comment and share. And write down below here, what is your fear? Have you got other fears? Have you got big fears? So do you know in the third Harry Potter book, when Professor Lupin tells Harry what you fear most of all is fear.
That suggests that what you fear the most is fear itself. This is very wise.
And that was very wise, right? So, well, if we believe him, and we also believe the good old Franklin Roosevelt, who said something similar, well, then they must be saying something right, okay? Because one of the biggest fear for parents is to pass on their fears onto children. And can that happen? Now, are most fears learned? Or do we have them inside us? All we need to know is that we need fear to survive, but it seems that like a lot of those essential fears only kick in later in life. So for example, when we observe fearful behavior in adults. So scientists have found that there are two fears that we're born with, the fear of falling and the fear of loud voice. Pretty crazy, right? Even babies as young as 6 months old hesitate and they won't crawl over a glass and underneath is empty or where it looks like there is a cliff. So that's some early development of depth perception and fear of height going on there, right? So that's the same thing with the loud noises. They have what we call the acoustic startle reflex. So when a loud noise happens, they kind of startle. I'm sure you've noticed that before. Have you ever heard of the word the triune brain? So an American neuroscientist in the 1970s called Paul MacLean came up with this theory. And it's a fancy way of saying that we have 3 parts in their brain. And this theory is based on evolutionary psychology. And it says that for us, human beings, we will change over time, adapting to the environment. It sounds a bit cool or a bit strange. I don't know, let me know. But what is so important about his theory? Well, we've all experienced situations where our mind takes control, it makes us do things that have got nothing to do with logic. Do you know what I mean? So when we look back, then we realize that some of our actions weren't based on reasoning, but we were more impulsive, emotional, or even rational. So do you know why that happens? Well, according to him, our brain can be divided in 3 parts. And each one of those parts have its own function. So let's break them down. The first one is that we have a reptilian brain. Yeah, like a reptile, which is the oldest part of our brain. And it is similar to the brain of a reptile. So it kicks in when we need to act super fast. And that happens when we're in danger. So the reptilian brain makes us ready to escape, attack or freeze in the face of real or imagined danger. So have you ever noticed your child with selective mutism that freezes in front of other people? Or they react before something else. It's kind of automatic. The second part is the limbic brain. And this one deals with our emotions and the relationships. And it is responsible for us feeling emotions and embracing feelings. of love and play and happiness or sadness. Now, the younger we are, the more we use this part of our brain, even though we might not fully understand what we're going through at that age. So teenagers, for example, I don't know if you're a parent of teenagers, rely a lot on this brain. Instead of thinking things through, they feel it intensely. Just imagine when somebody with anxiety gets overwhelmed, nothing else matters. To be honest, even like a 2-year-old. So you can tell them to calm down, to be logical, but their immediate goal is to escape the fear, shame, or embarrassment that they feel, but not facing it. So what do? They avoid. In the limbic system, we have the hippocampus, which helps us remember emotional memories, and the amygdala, that's a funny name, right? Which plays a vital role in forming and storing memories associated with emotional events. So it's kind of all connected. And then the third part is the neocortex, which is the part of the brain that makes us different from all the other mammals. This is kind of the newest part of the brain that we have discovered. Well, I haven't, but neuroscientists have. And it's what allows us to know that we exist. We have complex thoughts about our future, making decisions, getting married, going to school, all sorts of things. And above all, about communication. And when everything is working well, these 3 parts communicate well with each other. Now, through the neocortex, we can understand the connection between the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And we realize that most of the time it's our thoughts that create anxiety, not really anxiety. It is important for people with anxiety in general, or anxiety communication, children with selective mutism, to understand this 3 part of the brain, or this brain theory, because it helps them grasp that overcoming anxiety about their future or the memory of the past that is holding them back in the present, they develop a great awareness of how the brain works and what we can achieve and what is the relationship with the different parts of the brain. So for me, in the masterclasses, in my course itself, I have a section that I dedicated only to the brain, because I want to teach you to teach your children, or I teach the children that I see in therapy, that the brain is important, but we need to embrace it. But we also need to understand that thoughts are only thoughts and not who we are. So what do you think of that? Did you know about those 3 parts? Now, as a therapist, I love studying the brain, and I've recently started to learn about, the stimulation through the sounds, looking after ourselves in the body, aligning ourselves. It's amazing. It's an incredible journey, and that I'm lucky that I can share with the families that choose us. Now, if you want to know any more, you will find the link in the description below. And I'm so happy that I've been able to share where the fear comes from and how the brain plays a part in it. So remember that fear is a natural part of life, but it's also something that we can learn to manage and overcome. And what part of the brain do we need to listen? And we want our children to develop the brave muscle, but also feeling safe. So take care of yourselves, and remember to comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next video.